I'm getting ready to share a few scenarios that I really want you to think about for a moment. Scenario number 1 is you set your alarm for 6 a.m., your alarm goes off, and it's 6:03. So what do you decide to do? You decide, you know what, I'm just going to wake up at 6:30 since I couldn't wake up at 6 a.m. You go back, the alarm goes off again, you wake up at 6:32, you turn that alarm off again, and you decide that you're going to wait for the next even number to wake up. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, you just get a brand new journal. You're excited to spend your quiet time with God. You write the words good morning in that fresh new page in your journal. You spell good morning wrong, so you scribble it out, rip out the page, crumble it up, and start again. Scenario number 3, you're getting ready for church. You hate the outfit that you have on. You can't find anything else, so you just decide that you're not going to church. What do all 3 of these scenarios have in common? It's that dreaded all or nothing mindset. I have struggled with that all or nothing mindset pretty much my whole life. I've always been a very black or white person, never really finding the in-between. I'm very ambitious. I like to overcommit to things, get a lot of things done, and sometimes that can lead to burnout, stress, anxiousness, perfectionism, all of these things. So if you're watching this video, we're going to talk about how to overcome this all or nothing mindset so that you can actually start to enjoy life, reach your goals, and make progress. Now for me, one of the biggest areas that I struggle with the all or nothing mindset is even in things like working out. I feel like if I couldn't do a full 30 minutes to an hour workout, there was no point of doing a short workout because that wasn't good enough. And that mindset of it's not good enough or your efforts aren't good enough is really the basis of the all or nothing mindset. It's saying if I can't do everything, then I'll do nothing. And if you look over your life, you can see how that's showing up in your relationships, on your job, in business, and even in your relationship with God. The all or nothing mindset produces stress and overwhelm. You find yourself getting so beat up to the point where even the things that should be easy to get done feel like another mountain. The all or nothing mindset turns steps into mountains, and I think that that's one of the most dangerous things because it can lead to us carrying around these burdens and always feeling like we're not doing enough or we just aren't enough. Now that winter is coming to an end, I have been hyper aware of my never-ending to-do list and goals. Between spring cleaning, business launches, and trying to make sure that I'm hitting all of my fitness goals, honestly, it's been a little overwhelming. If I can be honest, even scrolling online and seeing how much everyone is getting done can make me feel even more anxious and behind, and it really does negatively contribute to that all or nothing mindset. Anxiety often peaks in the springtime, but my sponsor BetterHelp can connect you with a therapist who can provide support. The majority of BetterHelp members seek support for anxiety, and 69% of members report improved anxiety symptoms after 6 weeks of therapy on BetterHelp. When I was struggling with stressful business decisions and that all or nothing mindset, therapy really helped me to get out of my head. It's easy to start. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and you'll be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. They carefully make sure that therapists on the platform are well qualified, and if you have any questions, their customer support team is there to help. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can trust. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Click the link in the description box or visit betterhelp.com/Kyla to get 10% off your first month of therapy. So another fruit of the all or nothing mindset that I think is so dangerous and the most common effect that we feel from it is the procrastination and delay. One of the most relatable memes I saw on the internet basically talked about how you beat yourself up because you can't find the motivation to do something. So you lay around and then beat yourself up for laying around for doing nothing. And that's so real because that all or nothing mindset makes you feel like even the small efforts that you make to move forward are not enough. So if you can't do everything, you do nothing. And we talked about how dangerous that is. So sometimes you think that you're lazy, but really it's this mindset that you have that is a barrier to you getting where you want to be. I truly believe that inside of all of us, we have the capacity to accomplish the goals that we set. I believe that we are made in the image of God, and if God is a finisher, so are we. He made us that way. So when we find areas in our life where we're not able to finish things, or we're not even able to find the motivation or the discipline to be consistent, we can see at the root of that is that all or nothing mindset. Now, what I've noticed is that a lot of people who struggle with the all or nothing mindset are truly ambitious at the core, and then they realize that that mindset has served them well in previous seasons. Maybe you decided that you work well under pressure, so you wait to the last minute to get things done, or maybe that all or nothing mindset has helped you to lock in and to execute at a great capacity. It's not always bad to have that all or nothing mindset. We actually see some examples in the Bible where Jesus was all or nothing concerning the will of God. He didn't let anything distract him from moving forward in God's presence. We also see in the Bible where Moses told God that if your presence doesn't go with us, we're not going, right? So he knew that he could do nothing apart from the presence of God. That's when that all or nothing mindset is fruitful. But when that all or nothing mindset starts to affect your confidence, it starts to come with fear, anxiety, stress, and overwhelm, that's how you know that it's having a negative impact on your life, and you need to kill it at the root. What I think is most interesting about the all or nothing mindset is that it really does help you to focus. It's just you're focusing on the wrong thing. We're so focused on the results and this perfect expectation that we're missing the steps in between. So I think one of the ways that we can really overcome this all or nothing mindset is to reframe what focus looks like for us. When we start to focus on all the areas where we aren't good enough, or all the areas where our efforts don't produce the fruit that we want to see, that's when we start to lose momentum. But when we focus on the steps that we are able to take, the things that we do have the capacity to do, I think we begin to shift and break down that mindset, and it can start to work for us. So it's not all or nothing. It's something or nothing. It's done is better than perfect. And that is a small mindset shift that if you meditate on that over time, you're going to start to see the fruit of that. And it even reminds me of the parable with the master and then the servants that he gave the bags of silver to invest. In Matthew 25, verse 15 through 29, it says that he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. Then he left on his trip, and it talked about how the servants who had 2 bags of silver and 5 bags of silver, they invested it and they multiplied it. But it was that one servant who basically hid the bag of silver away, and then the last servant, he hid his bag of silver out of fear of the character of the master, and basically was like, I was afraid of you. I thought that you were like an unfair, cruel master, whatever. And so he does nothing with the money, and the master is like, you could have at least invested my money and got me a return from the interest, but you did nothing instead. And I believe he struggled with this all or nothing mindset. He didn't even have the faith or the confidence to believe that if he took a small step of investing it, that he would have produced fruit. So he decided to do nothing and hide away, and then he was rejected by the master. And I think that that's such a great but unfortunate example of what that all or nothing mindset looks like. And even looking over my life, I can see how sometimes when I get an assignment, I was a little bit afraid to move forward, and I decided to do nothing instead of taking a step forward. So it's like we know that we need to overcome this mindset, but I believe the root of that is, again, number one, reframing our perspective, and then starting small. So I'm going to give you a few steps that you can start applying this week, because I believe that as you begin to put this in practice, that's when the mindset will break. Changing your mindset and reframing is only one part of it, but I believe that if you want to see the confidence increase that comes from breaking this, you have to start taking small steps of faith. You have to put your faith in action. So the first thing that I want you to do is to make a list of the most prominent areas that you struggle with the all or nothing mindset. This can be in your fitness, in your faith, in your relationships, in your work, in your business. Maybe you struggle with it in all of those areas, but I want you to pay attention to the one where it's most affecting you. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to pick one area where you feel like it's affecting you most, the area that you feel most confident to try and take these faith steps, and I want you to create what's called a default plan. The default plan is a thing that you can fall back on so you can eliminate that decision fatigue. I think what makes the all or nothing mindset so exhausting is because it constantly requires you to face things that require a lot of decision making. And when we're presented with too many decisions, we get overwhelmed and stressed out. So having a default plan is that thing that you can fall back on that allows you to eliminate that decision fatigue. And I'm going to give you a few examples of what that looks like in my life. Number one, getting dressed to leave the house and run errands. I already have a million decisions to make, and sometimes it's very overwhelming for me to try to find an outfit and put it all together just to leave the house, whether I'm running errands or for church. So for me, I decided, you know what? I have a few outfits that are staple. They fit well, they're comfortable, they're easy to throw on, and those are my default plan when I cannot find something to wear. I also have default workouts. So let's say my day is going really busy and I didn't get a chance to do my full 30 or 45-minute workout. I have two default workouts. One is just to get on my treadmill while I'm watching a show and take a 15 to 20-minute walk. Or I can go right to my app and I can go pick one of the shorter 15-minute workouts that my trainer has already set aside. These are things that I don't have to think about, that I can do and build confidence with easily. And so another area where this default plan shows up is what I like to call a default time period. And this is when my to-do list is piling up, I'm super over it and overwhelmed, and I look at my list and I say, okay, which one of these tasks can I start with at least 5 minutes? My mindset is always to try to get these quick wins that help me build confidence throughout the rest of my day. I don't like throwing a whole entire day away just because the day wasn't going as planned, but I try to reset even in the middle of the day. I think sometimes we're always looking for the top of the month, or we're always looking for a Monday to start fresh. But if you start practicing those daily resets, just looking at what you can accomplish between 5 to 15 minutes, you're going to start building momentum, and that is what's most important. So now that we've covered some practical steps, let me know which area in the comments that you're going to focus on this week and weeks moving forward. Again, this is not about fixing your entire life. We know that we have to go to God in prayer and ask Him to transform our minds to help us to remove this all or nothing mindset. But as you're praying, you need to be putting your faith in action. And this is why I want you to pick one area in your life that you struggle with this all or nothing mindset and start putting together your default plans with the help of God. Put your faith in action and watch your life be transformed. If you haven't already seen the video I made about silencing your inner critic, I highly recommend watching that video because it directly correlates to overcoming this all or nothing mindset. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.